Welcome back to Ghost Pirate Entertainment. I'm your host, Kanan Becker, and today we do another deep dive into Tubi. And with that, let's get to the list.
My voice was soft and cold, her eyes were clear and bright, but she's not there.
Titane is a 2021 French psychological body horror movie. Written and directed by Julia Ducournau, it stars Agatha Roussel, Garance Millier, and Vincent Lindon. Following a series of unexplained crimes, a father is reunited with his son who has been missing for 10 years. So this doesn't drop on Tubi until the 16th of February, so it'll still be a couple weeks out if you're watching this at the time this video comes out. But I just had to let you guys know because I know a lot of you still haven't seen this, and this movie is so bizarre, it's so strange, uncomfortable, it's weird, it just has so many layers to it and goes in so many different directions. It's really hard to follow and really keep track of what you're watching. In a lot of ways, it reminds me of a David Lynch kind of project, but with the body horror of David Cronenberg. And on top of that, it has thriller elements, mystery elements, crime and like slasher things going on. It's just all over the place, but I think it's a blast. But you have to be into artsy, bizarre, strange foreign horror. It just has imagery in it that'll stick with me forever. This is one of those movies that I will never forget. So if you haven't seen this, make sure you put an X on your calendar and check it out on February 16th.
I can't believe you're making this about you.
Bodies, Bodies, Bodies is a 2022 comedy horror movie. Directed by Helena Rien, it stars Rachel Sennett, Maria Baklava, and Amanda Stenberg. At a hurricane house party, a group of friends play a murder in the dark game called Bodies, 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 which quickly begins to turn dark.
Guys, I get so stressed out every time we play this. Someone always ends up crying.
So I know this isn't going to be for everyone. I know an older crowd, people, over the age of 40 are probably not going to connect with this. I did, so maybe you will, but I'm just saying, I know from what I've heard after this movie was released that a lot of people were like, it's just a bunch of millennials and I don't understand what they're talking about. I don't get their sense of humor and whatnot. And so they just didn't give this movie a chance. So I get it, right? But at least in my opinion, I thought it's hilarious. I love the characters because this whole movie is written tongue-in-cheek. These are not supposed to be taken seriously. None of the characters in this. They're written as like stereotypes of the younger generation. They're as much making fun of that generation in this movie as they are of the older generation that just doesn't get and understand the younger generation. And I thought that that's really witty and well done. But it goes in some crazy directions, and in a lot of ways it reminded me of the movie Clue. It just has that zany sense of humor, a big mystery going on, everybody trying to figure out who did what's exactly going on, what exactly is happening. And then on top of all of that, this movie looks great. It has this really cool way of being shot where they have these glow-in-the-dark lights around their necks and things like that. And so a lot of the lighting is just glow in the dark stuff, and so it's hard to see at times, but it's also rewarding and fun. You can feel the fun qualities in the movie because of that kind of creative way of doing things. But I think it has a great young cast that is well aware of what they're doing in this, and poking fun at themselves, and have a lot of fun with what they're doing in it. So am I guaranteeing that you'll enjoy this? Absolutely not. But I do think that a lot more people need to give it a chance. Just go into it open arms and let it be what it's gonna be, and I think you might have a good time. Swiss Army Man is a 2016 surrealist dark comedy thriller, written and directed by Daniel Scheinert and Daniel Kwan in their feature film debut. It stars Paul Dano, Daniel Radcliffe, and Mary Elizabeth Winstead. A hopeless man stranded on a deserted island befriends a dead body, and together they go on a surreal journey to get back home.
I need you to help me get home. Okay, buddy? Okay, buddy.
This is such a darkly bizarre, strange, uncomfortable at times, but very, very funny movie. Now, you gotta have a dark sense of humor, because if you don't, you're gonna either one, think this movie's stupid, or two, be bothered and offended by it. I don't know. But if you have the right sense of humor for what happens in this, it's just a great time. It's so creative and interesting and well shot. The cast is incredible in this. Daniel Radcliffe as the Body is just absolutely amazing in this. He has to do so much physical acting in this and body performance without being able to really have much of a dialogue and use facial expressions and things like that. He's not given a ton to work with. And I don't want to say more than that, because it's better if you just kind of discover this movie as it goes, but it is so much more entertaining, so much more fun, so much more creative and imaginative than I had any clue it would be. So all I'm saying is that if you just go into this with the right expectations and an open mind, it just might blow your mind.
Shh, darling. Trust me.
God's sake.
It's for the best.
Misery is a 1990 psychological horror movie. Directed by Rob Schneider, it's based on Stephen King's 1987 novel of the same name and stars Kathy Bates and James Caan. After a famous author is rescued from a car crash by a fan of his novels, he comes to realize that the care he is receiving is only the beginning of a nightmare of captivity and abuse.
I guess it was kind of a miracle you finding me.
In a way, I was following you.
You were following me.
Oh, Paul, I've read everything of yours, but the Misery novels.
It's amazing to me how well this movie holds up, how much the message and what is terrifying about this movie still works so well today. Because as a society, hero worship is at its absolute worst. It's insane what you see fans of different celebrities and whatever you see them doing. And it isn't just young people, it's people of all ages becoming obsessed with their famous creator or their famous author, their famous musician, movie star, you name it. There's this real problem that we have as a society when it comes to this. And this movie shows that as well as any movie that's ever been made. Because Annie Wilkes, played by Kathy Bates so well in this, she is absolutely terrifying. Like one of the best horror villains you'll ever see. There's a reason why this movie has gotten so much praise. And I know most of you out there that are seeing this have seen this movie, but it might have been a while. And if you haven't seen this in a while, I think it'll surprise you just how fresh and well done it is even still. But this message is definitely to the younger crowd out there. If you enjoy intense movies that are nail biters, that will make your stomach turn, keep you engaged, characters that are well written, just magnificently performed by the entire cast, the look of it, the way it's shot, the pacing of it, I mean, everything about this movie is amazing, and there's a real reason why this is considered a horror classic. So if it's been a while, or if you've never seen this, I think it definitely needs to be added to your list. Dark Was the Night is a 2018 horror movie, directed and produced by Jack Hill. It stars Kevin Durand, Lucas Haas, and Bianca Kajlich. An evil is released in a small town when a logging company sets up shop in the neighboring woods.
This thing that we're looking for, maybe it's always been here.
Those are just stories, Donnie. People have been telling them around here for a long time.
This is a real hidden gem kind of movie. It's one you just don't hear talked about. Very few people seem to have seen it, but it's really well done. Everything about this is well done. But I think maybe part of the reason why it hasn't gotten more buzz is because it's much more of a mystery and a creepy thriller than it is a creature feature kind of movie. And if you saw the trailer, it makes it feel like it's going to be this big creature feature. There's going to be a monster running all through this movie. And that's not to say there isn't some evil force, some creature of some kind. It's just the way it's done, the mystery of it, the fact that you're constantly questioning if there really is a creature or if it's the people or what exactly is going on here is what really is the focus of this movie. So I think if those are the expectations you go into this with, you'll really enjoy it. But if you go into it wanting this big creature feature where a monster is constantly running around and people fighting it and whatever, then this probably will be disappointing to you. Luckily, I went into this without knowing anything about it, didn't even see the trailer, just happened to watch it one day and was just engrossed from the beginning all the way to the end. For one, I love Kevin Durand. I think he's a fantastic actor that doesn't get enough credit. I mean, his performance on The Strain, which is one of my favorite series that's ever been made. I wish they would have continued that. It could have went on forever as far as I was concerned. I just ate that shit up. But beyond that, he's just had a lot of great performances, and like I said, he just doesn't get enough credit. But it's creepy and uncomfortable and moody and atmospheric and takes you on this mysterious, eerie ride. And if that sounds like something you'd be into, then most definitely check this one out. Daybreakers is a 2009 sci-fi horror movie, written and directed by Peter and Michael Spierig. It stars Ethan Hawke, Willem Dafoe, and Sam Neill. The story takes place in a futuristic world overran by vampires and centers around a vampiric corporation, which sets out to capture and farm the remaining humans.
These are desperate times.
We only have enough blood to sustain our population till the end of the month.
We're talking about the extinction of the human race.
This is another movie that I don't know why, but just has never gotten the love over the years that I think it should. Even just the cast alone make it worth seeing. But it's creative and interesting. It's got this vampire element, but then also this sci-fi futuristic world, and they're married together in a really interesting way. I think fans of True Blood would definitely enjoy this movie because there are similar elements about them, because there is this real struggle between vampires and humans. In this case, it's like if True Blood eventually the vampires completely took over the world and the people were just all enslaved to them, so to speak. But this also has a little bit of that Matrix futuristic world vibe to it. Some of it has to do with when this came out, but it's full of action, it's exciting, it gets gory and fast paced. It's definitely as much of an action movie as it is a sci-fi horror movie. I think it's a movie that's kind of been forgotten by people, and when I've made my best of vampire lists and stuff in the past, this one's always on it because I really do think it's well done, interesting, and creative, especially in the vampire space. So if you've never seen this, do yourself a favor and check this one out.
I am a very dangerous man to know.
Taboo is a 2017 BBC dark drama thriller series, created by Stephen Knight and Tom Hardy. It stars Una Chaplin, Tom Hardy, and Jessie Buckley. An adventurer returns home to London during the War of 1812 to rebuild his late father's shipping empire. However, both the government and his biggest competitor want his inheritance at all cost.
I have sworn that I will do very, very foolish things.
What things?
Who exactly is it that wants you dead? Is it the East India Company or the king?
This, in my opinion, is part of one of the biggest crimes that's ever been done to a TV series, because I think this series was incredible, but it only got one season and then it was canceled. There were rumors for the longest time that they were making a second season, but they just never did. And this is, in my opinion, is still the best I've ever seen Tom Hardy in anything he's been in. He is so badass in this gritty, disturbing, yet likable way. It's hard to even express the way he is in this. His character is so complex. But that's this entire series. It just has this gritty, uncomfortable way about it. Everything that happens has like two sides to it. Like nothing is good, nothing is bad. No one is totally good, no one is totally bad in this. It's in this corrupt, dirty, gritty, grimy London, and it's just fantastic. It's really well shot, well directed. The entire cast, not just Tom Hardy, the whole cast is phenomenal in it. And even though it only lasted one season, I still think it's must-see thriller, drama, dark, gritty kinds of series out there. Like, one of my favorites ever done that's along the lines of this is Black Sails, and I just adore that series. But this has a lot of those same things going on to it. Now, this was made for BBC, so it doesn't go quite as hard as Black Sails. It doesn't have the nudity or quite the violent, bloodiness in it or whatever, but this does still reach at least a lot more than you see a lot of mainstream, network series go. And even though this list is mostly made up of horror things on Tubi, I wouldn't say this is horror per se, but there are definitely a lot of horrific elements and horror type of things that happen in this. And so I think most fans of horror would really enjoy this. So if you're looking for a quick binge over the weekend of something that's gritty and uncomfortable and disturbing, I think this is a fantastic pick.
More. Are you hungry?
Blood is a 2022 horror movie. Directed by Brad Anderson, it stars Michelle Monaghan, Skeet Ulrich, and Finley Wotaka-san. The plot's about a recently separated mother who moves with her daughter and son back into her old farmhouse. But when her son is bitten by a dog, it results in a mysterious, unexplainable infection.
I don't know what's wrong with him. Owen? What are you doing?
This is a very dramatic, slow burn, kind of heart-wrenching kind of horror movie. It lives in that world of dread and anxiety, and I think will hit parents especially a lot harder than anybody else. Because when your kid is even the slightest bit sick, especially when they're young, your worries and your imagination will run with itself, and it's so hard to keep composure and not stress out over the littlest things sometimes. And I know that parents' worst nightmare is having their kid come up with some mysterious, life-threatening disease of some kind. And so the way that element, that idea, and then injecting a supernatural kind of thing into that whole situation is really interesting. Now, I do think another movie, it's called My Heart Can't Beat Unless You Tell It To. I think that's an even better one at kind of doing something similar. But this is still a damn good movie. But I do think this one will hit parents even harder than that one, because that's about siblings and that whole thing. This is about a parent and their children. But it gets creepy and bizarre. And it's also really great to see Skeet Ulrich, even though he has a fairly small part in this, it's still great seeing him acting. But there's so many different layers and directions that this movie goes. And it gets pretty damn dark at one point that'll definitely make you squirm in your seat. But I think this is a solid, creepy little movie that's definitely worth adding to your list.
People think that I create horror. Horror is already out there in all of us.
Censor is a 2021 British psychological horror movie. Directed by Prano Bailey Bond, it stars Neem Algar, Nicholas Burns, and Vincent Franklin. It's about a British film censor who links a disturbing horror movie to her sister's disappearance and vows to unravel the mystery.
There's this actress. I've got this feeling that's Nina, my sister.
So this is a very slow-moving, dread-filled, anxiety-riddled kind of movie. It's artsy and beautifully shot. At times, it's stripped of color and there's meaning and reason behind that. At other times, it's much more vibrant and dark and deep with its color palette. But it's such a fascinating movie, the different directions that it takes you and how hard it goes, especially in the final act. But I also found this movie interesting because it led me down the journey of looking into video nasties and how the UK dealt with horror movies and stuff, especially in the 80s and 90s, and the censorship and all of that. I just personally didn't know much about that. I knew that there was something of censorship. I knew there was a thing of video nasties and that they did censor their movies and stuff along those lines. But I had no idea to what degree it was and how really rigid and how many movies that they either edited out stuff or just were never let air over there. And so because of this movie, I watched a couple documentaries. One of them I think is on Tubi called Video Nasties, but just a number of them, and it kind of really opened my eyes to what a travesty for a lot of people growing up in the UK this whole thing was, and how luckily things have loosened up quite a bit now, and people are able to get a hold of physical media of movies that were never released and see movies that they weren't able to growing up and things like that. But if you're a fan of art house, creepy, slow burn horror, then this is one you absolutely should give a look.
My Bloody Valentine 3D.
My Bloody Valentine is a 2009 slasher horror movie. Directed by Patrick Lussier, it's a remake of the 1981 classic of the same name and stars Jensen Ackles, Jamie King, and Tom Atkins. Tom returns to his hometown on the 10th anniversary of the Valentine's Night Massacre that claimed the lives of 22 people. But instead of a homecoming, Tom finds himself suspected of committing the murders.
Come here, you better check this out.
What is it?
So I'm a big fan of the original 1981 film. It's just one of the best real pioneer slashers of that early era. It actually had some substance and creativity and wasn't just trying to rip off other franchises. And I've always just been a big fan of the look of the miner. The whole mask and all of that, it's really creepy and uncomfortable and creative and fun. But I think as far as remakes go, I'm not saying that this is as good as the original, don't get me wrong, but for a remake, this is a damn good one, and it feels different. It doesn't feel like it's just trying to redo the original. Like, that one still definitely has its place. This one feels like it's kind of doing its own thing, and it has some twists and turns, especially that you won't see coming, that really catch you by surprise. On top of that, I'm a huge fan of Supernatural. I've watched it since the very beginning all the way to the end, and seeing Jensen Ackles in this role, I thought is really fun as well. But then it's got Tom Atkins in it, and I mean, any horror entertainment thing that has Tom Atkins in it, I am on board. I love this guy. He is so fun. His career has been fantastic. Everything from Halloween Season of the Witch to Night of the Creeps, he's just awesome. But this one really is a much more of a whodunit kind of mystery slasher than the original, which is something I really appreciate about it as well. Now, there are things about it that do date it. That 3D garbage in this unfortunately doesn't work, but besides that, I think it does look good, at least for a slasher kind of movie, and it is fun. And with it being Valentine's Day in just a few days, and me having no one to spend Valentine's Day with this year, I figured who better than to share something and give something to than you guys, and give you a recommendation of making it a double feature and watching both My Bloody Valentines. And at the time of recording this, Heart Eyes hasn't dropped yet, and so hopefully that'll be a banger and will be one that we remember for Valentine's Day as well. Either way, I think this is a fantastic pick for this Saturday night. So do yourself a favor this weekend, pick one of the movies off of this list, grab your popcorn and your candy, and enjoy! And I want to give a huge, massive, enormous thank you to the Ghost Pirate crew, to you guys over on Patreon, and to the channel members over here. You guys mean so much to me. And if you would like to help support this channel over on Patreon, there's a link down in the description, or you can become a channel member by clicking on that join button down there and help support the channel that way. And like always, thank you so much for watching. Please crush that like button, and remember guys, horror can be fun. And if you enjoyed this, click right here to watch me talk about 10 horror movies over on Prime Video. And I'll see you guys next time.